The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
Story one for Hour 3 of America's Forum reports that the government has a plan to quietly prepare millions of green cards for illegal aliens. Let's go in depth on this issue now with Maricopa County, Arizona Sheriff Joe Arpaio joining us live from Phoenix this morning. Joe, we thank you for your time.
Thanks, JD.
Now, Joe, we're already hearing the administration come back and say, oh, no. These millions of green cards, we're just getting them ready for any number of reasons, not for executive amnesty. How would you evaluate that response from President Obama's people?
Well, they've been given get out of jail free pass cards already, especially in the jails that I run, when you have 4,000 illegal aliens charged with state crimes, some with murder, and they keep coming back over and over again. There's something wrong. Either they're being deported and they keep hopping the fence, or they're let out the back door. I kind of think they're let out the back door. 36% of the 4,000 illegal aliens have come back. Last month, 25 times a guy has come back. Come on. So they have, something's wrong. I wrote to the Homeland Security Secretary 3 times. I want something done about it. The local media will not cover this story, or the national. I can't believe why. This is a big story when we can prove. We can prove they keep coming back to the jails that I run.
Joe, what you had to say receives a hearty second from talk radio host Rush Limbaugh. Let's take a listen to what Rush had to say on a possible executive amnesty, then I'll get your reaction to it.
Meaning, we're not even going to deport convicted criminals. There are 167,000 of them. So apparently, not only do we need illegal immigrants to do the work Americans will no longer do, we need illegal aliens to commit the crimes Americans will no longer commit. And this is under the radar.
Well, Joe, we hear Rush Limbaugh there. You have talked about someone ending up in your jail who has come back, what now, 25 times. Why this effort on the part of the federal government to ignore and fail to enforce immigration law?
I don't know. I'm just asking them to look into it. I'll be happy to assist. 150 of my deputies and officers went through 6 months training and were able to enforce the illegal immigration laws. Of course, the Homeland Security previous one took that authority away from me. By the way, JD, I was at the border a couple of days ago, where you and I were for years ago, to try to talk to the Mexican authorities. I'll tell you what's sad. All the top law enforcement officials told me don't go into Mexico. I wanted to go in there. I was a director there many years ago. But isn't it sad that law enforcement is afraid to cross that border and go into Mexico?
Well, you have that.
I just can't believe it.
That situation on the border grows increasingly dangerous. And not only in terms, forgive me, there's no way to lessen the notion of, quote, traditional crime. And I don't want to try to dress it up and make it respectable, but when you think about the national security risks on our border, are you just mystified by this inaction, by this failure to take control of our border situation?
Yeah, there's a lot of politics involved. You know that. It's an economic problem, intelligence problem. It's a leadership problem. The president sets the tempo. He's not setting too good of a tempo right now when we talk about crime and illegal immigration. So it starts from the top. But what can we do about it right now? I don't know. I have some special initiatives going on. and I'm not going to talk about it, but that's why I went to the border. I did talk to 4 federal officers. I had to stick my arms through the fence to shake their hands, but we have to do something about it. I'm going to tell you something, JD. We can keep talking about illegal immigration. There's another issue that not many people are talking about. It's the drug problem. I spent 57 years fighting that problem all over the world. We have a drug problem. We have a heroin epidemic going on, and I don't see much interest from the White House about catching dope peddlers coming across our border from Mexico.
Well, I tell you what, Joe, we were going to ask you to stay, and after we come back on the other side of this break, we will talk more about what is going on in terms of the lack of border security and the increase in illicit drugs coming into the United States. Stay with us. Our conversation with America's toughest sheriff continues here on America's Forum. Let's continue our conversation now with Maricopa County Sheriff Joe Arpaio, joining us live from Phoenix, Arizona this morning. Joe, before the break, you spoke about drugs. With your background with the DEA, how bound is the notion of the drug cartels and illegal immigration? Are the cartels working with the coyotes to keep our southern border essentially open for their nefarious deeds?
Yes, because 80% of the seizures we've been making in my county, tons, large amounts, especially marijuana, the illegal aliens were transporting the drugs. So I said years ago there's a connection between illegal immigration, the coyotes, and the drug traffickers. But we have to start cracking down on the drug problem. It keeps coming across from Mexico. And once again, I think the president should start talking about it, at least take some trips to Mexico and meet with the president, have a few beers or whatever, or have the president come here. Got to get on the same track. I think they are on the same track, the president of Mexico and the president of the United States, to be somewhat agreeing to the policy. So we should take away the money from Mexico, their foreign aid, until they get with it and do something about both issues.
Sheriff Joe, you have spoken out. You have written the federal government. You're demanding that the feds stop releasing criminal aliens that have been arrested in your county of Maricopa, which of course includes the Phoenix metropolitan area. How tough is it for you to do your job not only with the feds and their stance, but with the fact that so many cities, including Phoenix, are, quote, sanctuary cities where illegals essentially are not picked up?
Well, they were somewhat sanctuary even before these laws were passed, state laws here. But, the courts have just about destroyed our laws, and it's very difficult to continue to operate and arrest illegal aliens. We have the handcuffs put on us. So that's sad. That's sad. It's, I'm not going to say conspiracies, but I have my own ideas of what's going on. I'm not at liberty to talk about it right now, but there's something wrong in City Hall, including, I call the White House City Hall in a way too, but there's city halls around our nation, and of course we have city halls in Phoenix and Maricopa County too.
And you mentioned what goes on in Washington as well. Joe, earlier this week, President Obama addressed the issue of immigration reform. Let's take a listen to what he had to say, and then I'll get your reaction to it.
The reason we haven't done immigration reform is because congressional Republicans in the House of Representatives have been blocking immigration reform. Y'all know, if I propose something, they're against it. If I said, apple pie is a great pie, they say, no, it's not.
Well, the president making this all personal. But when you hear the president talk about, quote, immigration reform, is he just essentially talking about blanket amnesty?
Yeah, that's what he wants. That's the whole mission. It's been his mission and others in that administration that want to have amnesty. They chippy around. They've been chippying around. I just told you I have 4,000 illegal aliens that turned over to ICE, and they keep coming back. What do you call that? Free pass? I don't know. I call that amnesty in the way that they want to cover that reasoning up on amnesty. But they're chippying away. He's going to chippy. He's going to do things after the election again, and that should be up to Congress.
Mindful of the post-election atmosphere, we're hearing these reports that the feds are ordering all these blank green cards in the millions. So do you have any doubt that he is in fact going to issue an amnesty and just try to do it administratively?
Yeah, the green cards being produced, half of them are probably going to be phony anyway. How do you track that situation? It's going to be a mess. And maybe after the election, Congress will look into it and come up with some new laws or keep the laws that we have. But this is a game that's been played for years. You know that, J.D. When you were there, I'm sure you were frustrated in Congress. So it's still a game. I hate to call it a game. It's a serious situation. But come on, there's just ways that government, the president can chippy around and get things done through executive orders and policies and how he runs those federal agencies. The morale is very low with the guys on the streets. I was just there in Nogales and Yuma, and the morale is bad. They want to go out and do their job and lock people up.
And thus what you have called in days past backdoor amnesty. Sheriff Joe Arpaio, we thank you for your time. We'll keep an eye on what transpires. You heard what Sheriff Joe had to say right there. Is it backdoor amnesty? Is amnesty on the way? Tweet me your comments at NewsMaxTV, hashtag America's Forum.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.